Hey guys, this is John Kalam from KHL Motorsport, and I'd like to welcome you to episode 1 of the Contact Patch podcast, where the rubber meets the road. It's our inaugural episode, and I'm pleased to be telling you guys that I'm really excited to host it for you guys. Right now, it's raining with a bit of thunderstorms where I am right now. There's also some tumult in my personal life. I'm stuck here house sitting. Unfortunately, my kid's sister is under the weather. She recently got an operation. Actually, yesterday, she got her appendix removed. And so that's kind of sad, but Alhamdulillah, she is doing okay so far. She's standing up already, surprisingly, after the operation. It was a laparoscopic operation done in a hospital. So I'd like to thank the medical team for taking good care of her. And I was there to see her when she woke up just after the surgery yesterday. So my mom is there in the hospital taking care of my sister, and I'm here house sitting. There's no place for me to sleep there, so I'm just sleeping in the house. Anyway, the house is not so far from the hospital. Anywho, that's enough personal stuff. What's the latest in what I'm noticing in the motoring scene right now? I'm seeing there was a recent launch of some EV car. I think it's something like a Weltmaster V5. I don't know what the heck it is. Weltmeister W5. It's WM Motors officially launching the Weltmeister W5. It's a new electric EV car as far as I'm aware of. I don't know where it comes from. Is it Chinese? I'm reading the Auto Industria article right now very quickly. It's fully electric, priced at 2.584 million with all sorts of doodads and gadgets. Oh, their showroom is in Western Bikutan, Taguig. It's not far off the KVI Quick Lube shop. And I'm aware that Angie King has reviewed this vehicle, and I probably will be watching. I haven't watched it, but there's also one EV car that I'm most interested in to see also, which is that mini Wuling EV car. So tiny Wuling Hongguang mini EV. This car I'm actually quite interested to own because in China, the basic version starts at the equivalent of 250,000 peso roughly. And then I just watched a review of their new model variant called the Game Boy. Model variant emblem is reminiscent of the Gazoo Racing of Toyota. So not only are they appropriating Game Boy from Nintendo, they're also appropriating Gazoo Racing from Toyota. So really, these Chinese guys are something. What's for me to say? I also drive a Chinese car by way of Great Britain, which is the MGZS that we have, the style variant. But this one I'm looking for, assuming it's really half a million or thereabouts. I think this is a very good city commuter, and it can go 80 to 100 kilometers per hour top speed. So it's good for the highway. Nowadays, people are driving about 60 to 80 kilometers per hour anyway in SLEX. So I think the low speed is not a deterrent for me. I don't think people will be going at 100 too much. And so if I'm able to cruise at 70, 80 kilometers per hour with these cars, I think it's pretty good enough for me wherein I could save on fuel expenses, and at the same time, even though it's a bit of BS, save the environment, climate change and whatnot, whatever. But yeah, it's this Wuling Hongguang is something interesting for me. WM Motors Weltmeister. Welt is like it's German for something. Master of giving welts. I don't know. It's 2.6 million. It's a lot of money for 2.6 million. You can buy a Staria, a nice Staria probably, or I don't know what you could buy for 2.6 million. That's kind of beyond anything I could afford right now. I think it's pretty close to a GR Yaris, if I'm not mistaken. But the problem is you can't buy a GR Yaris right now. The GR Yaris is, I think, allocations have been fully allocated to prospective buyers for the next 3 to 4 years, just like the Land Cruiser 300. So I guess Toyota has really winners on their lineup right now. So hats off to Toyota, Toyota Motors Philippines, for doing a great job in representing the Japanese brand here in the Philippines. You guys have been number one for like, I don't know, since I think you guys started in the 80s becoming number one, and you have not let go becoming number one. So hats off to you guys. But anyway, going back to EVs, I'm really looking forward to that Hongguang, and I don't know if there would be a chance for me to drive the Weltmeister, the Hongguang, or whatever. But hey, that's gonna be part of the wish list that we will have in our motoring journey moving forward. Anyway, let's get to the topic at hand. How do you build your own race car? But again, you have to define what a race car is, or a competition car, so to speak. Competition vehicle is basically a vehicle that is run in motorsport competitions. The assembly or construction or the prepping of such a vehicle is really dependent on the rules and regulations of the organizer. Creates a formula or a set of rules that dictate a certain type of car to be fielded in a certain competition. Of course, everyone's aware of Formula One. Formula One, it's of course the top echelon motorsport, but recently has been hampered by budget constraints, and let's forget the sporting decisions that are controversial by certain sporting directors that are apparently deported back, practically deported back to his home country of, I think he's Aussie, right? He's Australian. Um, Car designers have to make sure that the specs of the car meet the regulations of the formula. The rules you can download online in the FIA website if you're really interested to build your Formula One car by yourself on current regulations. But just remember, guys, that the Formula One car takes a whole team and a whole season to develop. Currently, the budget for a racing team is capped to 140 million US dollars. Before, they were spending almost close to half a billion US dollars every year for the top level team. So, Formula One is some kind of insane motorsport. Not 100% fan of Formula One, to be honest. I'm only a fan in the sense that it is a very good sleeping aid for me. Every time I have the opportunity to watch Formula One, I get the best night's sleep ever, or at least a very good hour and a half nap. I usually wake up when they're giving out the trophies in the podium and all that. So I like Formula One because it makes me sleep. I am digressing from the topic. So Formula One is the upper echelon of motorsport, and there are rules that constructors have to follow in order for them to meet the regulations of Formula One. All right, but anyway, Formula One is kind of expensive. But if we go again to the Philippines, we are based in the Philippines, guys. For the grassroots, is pretty open because the objective for grassroots motorsport organizers is to get everyone, especially the newbies, to participate and join their events. So but when it comes to the higher series, in the Philippines, it's basically a one make race series, like the VS Cup, Formula V1, but the Radicals are here also. And then the cheapest series, I don't know when it will be restarted, but the cheapest one make race series is the First Step Racing Cup. So the First Step Racing Cup is a series where I was able to participate for 2 years in circuit racing back in 2018 and 2019. So for a one make race series, basically you have to buy the car or rent the car in the case of FSRC. But basically for VS Cup, you have to buy the car. Well, same with Formula V1, it's run by professional race teams. And Radical SR1 is, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know, amateur racing series where very rich guys can just buy a car and run it and have authorized shops manage the back end for you, so to speak. Basically, trackside support and repair and maintenance of the vehicle. So that's one way of acquiring a competition car, is just buying one. Thing we're forgetting about is karting. Of course, karting has its own regulations. It's actually the babiest of baby formula racing. And where literal babies and young children get to live out their almost impossible fantasy of becoming Formula One drivers. Karting is, of course, regulated, sometimes regulated by the chassis, sometimes regulated by the engine. Most of the time, it's both. But sometimes also, especially if it's a rental kart series, it's basically also one make race series where you can just rent the kart. Aside from FSRC, there are people organizing rental kart championships. One good example again is City Kart Racing with the Saudi World Championships. Before Kart Plaza used to do it way back when in the times when they had the boom track. Let me tell you that if you're going to build your own race car, the first thing you have to know is where are you going to race your car? And if you know exactly where you're going to race it, you are going to set up the car for that particular series. So our example that we're going to share to you is our Corolla rally car, race car that we practically built from scrap, so to speak. We were given a chassis with a roll cage by the previous owner. This car has a very interesting story, but let me preface it first by being in the pleasure of knowing one of the legends of motorsport. Too bad he passed away. It's Mr. June Espino. Where when I had the pleasure of talking to him, and I was probably giving him some sleepless nights with all my questions. Literally, he did tell me that he was dreaming about the things we were discussing the night before. But he did give me this advice: if you are able to keep your acquisition cost of your race car as cheap as possible, then you have all the money available to set it up and also field it in all sorts of races. The fixed cost is, of course, getting your car in one piece and initially built for and to prep it for your racing. That cost is usually sunk, so the variable cost is literally fielding your car. So the more money you have left in your budget to go racing, the more you will enjoy the expense that's already sunk when you build your own race car. So acquire your uh, race cars as cheap as possible. He even said that some in back in the day they were even able to get cars, shells, donors for free, whether it's sponsored or literally thrown as scrap, and they just picked it up figuratively from the junk pile. And I could not believe that you could get a car for free until we got the car for free. That actually happened to us. Actually, the car that we got for free is technically it's not my car. It's a friend's car. So the car came from a former rally driver, also called Kenneth Dominado. So he's the father of a good friend who's Keanu Dominado. Sadly, he passed away young also, so it's very sad. to know that. I've not met the man, unfortunately. It was sold to June Diaz. So it was the rally racing family, the Diazes. They also used to organize rally events, stage rally events in the Philippines back in the day, and they are avid rally drivers. They're of course on hiatus, and a friend is also Ken Diaz. So it was Ken who gave the current owner is also a rally driver. Even though it's free, you're going to probably need a budget of 300 to 350,000 to get it built up to your specifications at the bare minimum for the budget race series that we do here in the Philippines, and like rallies and all that. So basically, that's a budget of a Lemon's car. Actually, it's way cheaper because a Lemon's car, if you guys are familiar with 24 Hours of Lemons in the US, the budget of a functional race car there to build one from scratch is usually reaches about 7,000 US, according to an article I've read. So 7,000 US is 350,000 peso, which sounds about right. I told him that just give me 100 grand, give me just for parts, I'll get it done. And I couldn't get it done for 100. I think it cost him. I think he gave me. I think 150 grand. The car is still not done. To our satisfaction, there's still a few more things that needs to be addressed with the car. But anyway, we acquired the car in Tagalog. Nabudol ko ang aking kaibigan to get the car. And I got it in the shop, slowly built it to my specs, which I'm very happy that I had the carte blanche. I guess 80% of the car was my own whims and fancies. Of course, the 20% is making it into an actual rally car. I had no idea what exactly is needed with a rally car. I've never done a stage rally in my life, to be honest. I had no freaking idea what a rally car really entails and what needs to be done. My background, I'm just a grassroots guy, autocross slalom guy, parking lot racing guy. Rally racing, stage rally is actually the premier level of motorsport for countries that don't have their own racetracks. Rally was so big in the 80s, but there wasn't a lot of decent tracks back then in all these marginal areas all over the world. All of these empty roads that rallying is made easy to organize. Like, let's say, for example, Malaysia for a time had all these great plantation roads. So these guys, even from the Philippines, were able to race in Malaysia. All over the world, it's basically that. It's just that in the 80s, rally was bigger than Formula One. Even up to now, rallying, to participate in rally, it's so exciting. To support somebody in rally. I mean, to not get ahead of the story, I just spent the whole night waiting for the car to come back to the service area, chatting with my our pit crew of the day. So you have to build a car to the regulations required by you. So for me, I actually had in mind a car that would qualify for GT100. GT100 is basically Grand Touring 100 class in the Philippine Grand Touring Championship, the premier de facto touring car race in the Philippines. Unfortunately, not a lot race in it. The feeder series has sparked up a lot of people race there. GT100 is 100 wheel horsepower as tested. That was my thing. Just build a circuit car and call it a day. Maybe we rent the car out. But Stage Rally came back and it was held in Subic last month, sometime in June. And we found somebody who wanted to use the race car. Let's just say that we got to Subic, they raced it in Subic, and then I drove it home back to home base in Parañaque. All the issues were minor and there was not so much needed to be done except to keep the lights adjusted. I don't know anything about rally so much. I do play the game and on the PC. I have my simulator rig, my Trustmaster T300 connected to a PC with Dirt Rally 2.0 installed. So I know how to drive, but I don't know the back end, and I don't know what a rally car really entails. So it really helps to have a mentor. If you really don't know anything, yeah, just look for a shop to trust and let them handle the rest. But if you don't have the money or the budget to have it built, again, you can also buy a car that's close to or exactly the spec you need for the race that you want to join. Yeah, but if you're building your own car, let me tell you the basics now on how to build your own car based on the category. Okay, the first thing is you look for a platform that suits your needs. Okay, if it's GT100, 100 horsepower, you don't need a super fast car. You don't need a super expensive car, right? You don't need a new car either. You can we like with what we got for free. We got a Toyota Corolla 1990. I don't know what 1990, but it's big body chassis AE101. Actually, it's an EE100. Originally came with a 2E engine. So we swapped in one in ZFE from a Toyota. It came from Japan, so it came from a Toyota Porte. But it's this engine's available in the Vios 1.5. Fitted it with a 5-speed manual with a TRD LSD. Well, the car had a cage already, but not much else. Engine went in. It has a C52 gearbox. It has the correct first and second gears, but the final drive is 3.7. It's kind of long-legged, but perfect for the highway though. More power can be had more effective power at the wheels can be had if the gear ratios or the final drive were shorter. It was a labor of love to find the transmission at an affordable price. So I basically bought the transmission with an LSD fitted to it, but the transmission needed to be repaired. So we bought another transmission, repaired it. It's really making do with surplus stuff that you can find on Facebook Marketplace and forums and whatnot. So we maximize all our sleuthing of car parts capabilities to the hilt. It had a cage, but when we had it scrutineered, they saw a flaw in the cage. So currently, the cage is being partially rebuilt at a knowledgeable shop. You could actually do it, but the owner insisted to do it, have it done by a professional. And I've seen their shop. I don't know if I can say their shop, but it's like a hidden motorsport shop in the middle of an industrial complex. So it's kind of interesting place to visit for the first time. If you are going to acquire a platform, pick a platform that you think that is already suitable for the class that you are joining in. If it's slalom, autocross, whatever, you could get a smaller car like a Brio. Actually, the Brio is a very good bet. The first gen Brio with a 1.3 manual or even the automatic. But in this case, we had the car, so we just had to make do with what the car is. So again, we had the Corolla, wanted to do it GT100, so just specify the 1NZ. It's more available instead of going silver top. I think the 1NZ would have been the best bet, especially if the goal is only 100 horsepower at the wheels. But in rally, in the category that we joined in Group 2, which is limited as far as displacement is concerned and drivetrain. So front wheel drive up to 1,600 cc's. So anyway, our 1NZ, so 1.5 liter, so it's under by 100 cc. But I like the 1NZ. Actually, you can modify the engine to produce silver top horsepower at the wheels while being lighter because it's an alloy block and head. The A series Toyota engine is iron block, so there's a weight saving of about 30 kilos. The Corolla is really it's a very popular car in the Philippines, especially the small body, big body, Love Life, those 90s, early 2000s generations. but one thing that's very nice about that Corolla platform and the engine that we pick is parts availability. The parts are so easy to get. When I was building that car, it was not a problem to find. And choices, and the prices were unbelievably cheap. If you're just not picky for the rare parts that are available, you just get the stock OEM cast-offs that people cannot find buyers for because it's not desirable. You can get great deals. I bought a door shelf for 700 peso and it had the window and winder assembly in it. I just had to put the door in and paint it white. And the platform's reliable. So many parts brand new, used. So I like the Corolla platform. It's pedestrian. It's no Ferrari. It's no Lamborghini. But for our use, for our budget, it's the perfect platform. I recommend it also. For the next 2 to 3 years, uh, I think that the parts are going to become more and more difficult for these 90s platforms. So it would be good to move to the noughties platforms like Vios, Yaris. Everyone's moving to the second gen Yaris, the iconoclasts or the cool kids. I think the Honda boys should transition to the Honda Jazz platform, Honda Fit platform, on the Brio. I think those are way better because they're newer than these 90s EGs and EKs. Basically, for most motorsport, the most critical thing that you have to meet is the safety requirements. Oh, it's so fun to slap in coilovers, a turbo kit, cams, nice set of wheels and tires and whatnot, and all these fancy stuff. But the brass tacks of it is your car has to be safe, especially in a field like circuit racing or rally where um, the heat of the battle can make you do a lot of mistakes that cause you to have accidents and crashes, some minor, some major. You really have to prepare your car so that it passes scrutineering as far as safety is concerned. For rally, we needed to have a fire extinguisher. We need to have a certain sound level of muffler with spark arrestors and all that minor things that you wouldn't really expect uh, normally when you're just an amateur car tuner. So you really need to know the rules and regulations, and you have to talk to your mechanic to do it for you, talk to the shop to do it for you, or you have to do it yourself if you can. To prepare it to the letter, and safety is the most paramount thing you have to meet. If you have to get the proper grade racing seat, you have to get a roll cage bent with the proper thickness of metal, diameter, and construction. It cannot just be a pipe with a seam. Usually they require seamless. So acquiring the pipe, the proper pipe, is also a chore in itself. But really study the rules and build the car to maximize, to be within the rules. If you want to be Colin Chapman, you want to be Gordon Murray, you want to look for the unfair advantage. Don't do that yet. Just make sure you pass first. If you are competent enough, you can already start looking for unfair advantages. But that usually the biggest unfair advantage that you can put into your budget meal race cars, if you have the money to just put what to do what the best that you can possibly do to the engine, suspension, the chassis, whatever, brakes, all that setup. You know, if you have the money, use it to your unfair advantage. If you don't have the money, you have to be a lot more creative, and that takes experience and a lot of research, depending on the race that you're joining. So for us, uh, we have a few tricks up our sleeve. There are things that I won't discuss, but one thing I'll share to you is the suspensions. Basically, the point of the car that I sweated so much time and effort in producing the right parts and figuring out how to fit those parts, right? The Subic Rally featured the tarmac roads. I also had no idea that it's all tarmac. So I made the suspension a dirt setup. Tarmac setup, you may want to go stiffer on the spring rate. Well, I wanted the car to be as multi-use as possible. I decided just to make it a dirt setup. For a dirt setup, the dampers are so important. Not only on the damping aspect, but also on the durability concept. The Corolla has McPherson struts front and rear. If you just run stock shocks, the shafting of the shock on these OEM and cheap aftermarket replacement shocks are garbage, so thin they will not last. They will not last 10 kilometers probably of dirt roads. But even if you go premium like KYB, again the shock rod, damper rod is good for the street, not for jumps and rough roads. So what we decided to do, or I decided to do, is to look for some inverted dampers, inverted strut dampers. You could buy one if you have a newer car, I guess. You could buy inverted strut dampers locally. Uh, the brand is Stain, the Endura Pro and the Endura Pro Plus. I highly recommend it if they carry your application, even if it's just for the street, get them. They're good. They're very good. I haven't tried them, but Tain is a good brand. The technology, I'm very impressed. And I believe the ride is going to be good even for street ride. And even if you go racing with them, I think they're going to be a very durable shock, even for dirt. But we don't, not only that we don't have money for Tains, we also don't have an application for Tains. I could have asked the owner to spring up the money, but even if he had, there's nothing for the Corolla. So front dampers are for Subaru STI GC8 body. Inverted strut, they're color red, made by KYB also in Japan, but they're inverted strut. The rears are Bilsteins from Toyota Corona Xshore ST191. They're also inverted strut. You think that different manufacturers will have imbalances with their shock damping and all that, but we are very fortunate. Do as I say, not as I do, but because what we did, we were just lucky. But do as I say. If you are going to do that, just get shocks from the same manufacturer. They must match front and rear basically. Make sure you get the shocks that are actually proper for your car. If you can buy them, just buy them. You can afford them, just buy. You can buy rally coilovers for a Corolla. There's a manufacturer that makes coilovers, rally coilovers, gravel coilovers for the Corolla. Yeah, K Sport coilovers. They have rally shocks. And also these guys importing shocks with some of the brands. You can ask also for custom made units. If you have money, go for some custom KWs or Riger. We can hook you up also at the shop if you're interested in that one. Because we are KW reseller at KBI Quick Lube. So if you can buy it, just buy the appropriate shock for your car. For us, I'm a guy who likes to experiment, and luckily the experiment is mostly a success, but also a big failure in the part of not getting the proper alignment because the shocks are too long. I couldn't put in the camber. In fact, the camber in the front is way positive, so that was a problem. Our driver was not happy about it that we gave him positive camber, but he got the car home. And they got a provisional 6. I think they dropped down to 7 due to penalties, but that's not my fault. Anyway, guys, let's recap, right? First of all, find the place where you want to join. That's the most important. Then acquire a car suited for it. If it's already a race car with the proper cage and safety equipment, just buy it if you have the money. If you are gonna piecemeal it, piecemeal it. It's gonna cost you more actually. If you're in Tagalog, binubuo mo ng tingi-tingi, you're gonna build it piecemeal. Whatever. If you can just get a platform to build that you like. And focus on the safety part. Don't worry about the engine, don't worry about the brakes, don't worry about the wheels and tires. If they roll, they roll. Don't think about winning. If you're an amateur, don't think about winning yet. Just participate. If you already become on a certain level of competence in driving, you will already know where the limits of your car is. And then after that, after finding out your limit, you'll just modify to suit. And if you find the mechanical limits of the car, it starts braking left, right, and center for the same thing over and over again. That's the time you have to modify it to make it more rigid. Yeah, just continue to participate in motorsport races. That's the most important thing. Okay, you don't need to have the flashiest car, and you don't have to have all sorts of money. You can do it on a budget, you can do it on installment, but what's critical is getting the car safe to run and to pass scrutineering for safety. Do not scrimp on safety. It is life or death. When push comes to shove, you don't want your roll cage to collapse all over you. You don't want your body to, your chassis to crumble all over you. Make sure that you are going to live another day to learn more things about racing, to improve your craft, and to go home to your family. So please do not scrimp on safety. It's not worth it. It's not worth your life. All right. So that's about it. If you guys have any questions, I think there are other things I wanted to say about the car, but I think I talked a lot. So I guess this is it for this topic. I'll see you guys in the next episode. We'll let you know when it will drop. And I hope you enjoyed this discussion. Please do write in the comments what you guys think. For our next episode, we'll definitely discuss comments made in the past, and of course for this particular episode. That's it for now. I hope to see you guys on the next episode. I hope you guys enjoyed uh, me talking and recording this by myself alone, house sitting. Uh, but yeah, I had fun, and I hope to uh, have you guys listen to the next episode to drop at a later date. You guys, that's it. Thank you so much. God bless. Take care. Stay safe, guys. Ciao.